Hello there, Bick Benedict here. We're playing Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 on the Series X, and this is my Angel of Death difficulty guide and walkthrough. We're currently on the Prelude. It is entitled Kodaku. So after we select our difficulty here, you notice it says recovery after mistakes is harder. On that is true. The difference, well, let me just give you some background on my experience with Warhammer and this game in general. I have not played Warhammer Space Marine, the original one. When I downloaded it on Steam, I was unable to play it because it had it crashed every time I loaded the game. I did find a fix for that, but I played the game, and it was a good game. I didn't not like the game. It just wasn't something that I wanted to play, to feel like that. I didn't want to have to think that I would have to play the original to have enough experience knowing about this game in particular, because what I tell you in this walkthrough will get you through the game, and whether I've played the original is irrelevant, because the games have two mechanics, of them by themselves. So on the lower difficulty beneath Angel of Death, there's a mode called Veteran. So I went through Veteran, and if you do go through Veteran, you'll notice that you get 3 shields beneath your health bar. Notice that on this difficulty, you get 2. So on Veteran and on Angel of Death difficulty, you get 2 shields. And I presume on the normal setting and the easiest setting, you get 3. Maybe on the easiest setting, you might get 4. I've never tested that one exactly, but this game is a combination of shooting and melee combat, and the shooting is just one aspect of it, because the melee combat is really where the game shines, I think, the most, because you're going to need to do melee combat to weaken enemies, and you can weaken them with the guns, but anytime you see a turquoise ring flash around an enemy, that means that the game is giving you an opportunity to parry. It's a courtesy that the game gives you. It doesn't always give you that courtesy, but on the smaller enemies, if you do parry that circular turquoise ring and get the parry, you'll outright kill the enemy, and you'll get one of your shields regenerated. A perfect parry will outright kill the smaller enemy. Now, we have some larger enemies over here too as well. The way that you regenerate your shields on this game is to do executions, and you can also, as I said, you can parry attacks and get your shields restored in that way. But that has to do with the smaller enemies that we just fought that I was talking about just a minute ago. So Veteran and this difficulty are quite similar in the fact that you get the same amount of shields, and I don't think much has changed in the way of getting picked up. Now, on this hardest of difficulties, you can still get revived by your teammates the same way you were able to get revived by them on the lower difficulty, Veteran. So it's one of those things where when I was going through Veteran, I was thinking to myself, well, when I finish Veteran and I get to Angel of Death, there's no way that I'm going to be allowed to get picked up by my teammates. It's going to be like Gears of War probably on Insane, where when you're down, you're down. There's no getting revived. But it's actually, if you're thinking along the terms of Gears of War, it's actually a combination of hardcore difficulty in a setting that is sort of like insane difficulty. So imagine if you were playing Gears of War, just take Gears of War 3 as a random example. If you were playing Gears of War 3 on insane difficulty, When you get killed, that's it. You're done. You can't get picked up by your teammates. But on this game, on the hardest difficulty, this difficulty which we're playing now, Angel of Death, even though you are on the hardest difficulty, you can still get revived by your teammates multiple times. Now, on this Prelude, since we're by ourselves, we don't have any teammates that can pick us up because, we're by ourselves at this point. So if you do get downed over here, it's permanent. But this is an easy chapter, and it's a Prelude chapter. So you always want to look for exploding canisters anywhere around enemies, because this game, 95% of the time, if an enemy is on a perch, if it's a sniper or something, or if it's an enemy that you can't get to, 95% of the time you'll see an incendiary object near that enemy that you can shoot and have that other enemy killed if it's a sniper or whatnot. But imagine my surprise when I got to this difficulty and I found that I could still get revived. Because, like I said, it's just like, imagine you're playing Gears of War 3 on Insane and being able to get picked up. It's absolutely incredible the way that is allowed to happen. But now we're going down here, and when you get attacked, so do you see the HUD on the upper left, how we have a red health bar? Well, whenever you start to take damage and you receive momentary critical damage, you'll see a white bar underneath it. And I want to wait until we start getting hit a little bit over here so I can show you, what's going on with that. But essentially what it boils down to is that in one of these tooltips during these tutorials, probably mentioned it. I'm glad the tutorials are on here for your guys' sake, but if you're on Angel of Death, you probably don't need to learn these tutorials. I wish you could take them off. But if you do receive critical damage, the way to counteract that is to attack as fast as you can, because attacking will fill in that critical damage up to the it'll fill out as much as the white line can accommodate. So we have a heavy enemy down here, and anytime they've got their shields or their weapons crisscrossed in front of them, you do need to do a heavy attack. I've got heavy, there's only one melee button. It's X, or it starts on right bumper. I've actually remapped right bumper to X because I prefer to melee with the face button, X. And if you're not comfortable with any of the moves, you can switch them to other buttons. So if one button is just not working out for you, you can move to any other button. I think you have to have an elite control for that, but for the full amount of different spots open. But you also start out rolling by default with A, and I prefer to roll with B. So I swapped out B and A, which can kind of be troublesome when you're trying to confirm or cancel out menu button choices. But over here we have another shipment of the... we've got a warrior down here. He's got his weapons crisscrossed. He's jumping at us. We parried his attack, and you notice that he had a reticle on him. That means that you can do a gun strike on that enemy. So if you evade, like in a bullet time fashion on enemies, after they do... well, you know how I said that an enemy will have a turquoise ring on him? The other time, the only other ring that they'll have is like an orange-reddish type of ring on them, meaning that your attack can't be perfect parried or any type of parried, and you have to dodge it. But if you dodge it at the very last second and go into bullet time, that will enable you to go into a gun strike, which will deal, as the tutorials say, but which I don't really believe, significant damage to that enemy. But that's just semantics on my end. I don't think it deals significant damage to them, but it does it does help the process out. And also, if you do a heavy attack with the melee button, meaning if you hold down the melee button on smaller enemies, they'll fall over and you can do a gun strike on them too. So anytime you're in a situation like this, just look for these exploding barrels and try to do your best. Even though this is somewhat like Gears of War in a very loose way, there's no cover system, but that doesn't mean you can't find advantageous pieces of the geometry to hide behind. And did you see how far away I was able to click in and lock in my execution there? If an enemy is in execution status, if he's incapacitated, you don't have to run all the way up to the enemy and then press the execution button, R3. Because you can start, what you want to do is you want to sprint up to the enemy, and as you're sprinting up to him, click in the right stick as fast as you can, because that will actually lock in your execution. So even if, for instance, you wouldn't have made it over to that enemy, if you sprinted and if you sprinted over to that enemy and he still would have got out of it, you're still locking it. I'm talking about he still would have got out of the execution. You're still locking in the execution from far away, and enemies stay incapacitated for quite some time, even on this hardest difficulty. And to be able to lock it in from afar is great. Another really great move that I like to do with this particular weapon is the XXX hold move, which is a stomp and which does a terrific amount of area damage. The chainsaw, the chainsword is probably one of the better weapons in the game. I really enjoy this weapon. Weapons have all kinds of different moves and stances and combinations of things that you can do with them. And later on, you'll be able to go into the armory and pick out weapons that you want to bring into the battle. But by and large, you'll be able to find weapons. Well, not anything like by and large. You find weapons all the fucking time, all over the place, even the melee weapons. So I also really enjoy using the hammer. I like the hammer a lot. I'm not much of a fan for the power sword, but it still has its purposes. That the power sword is one of those weapons that has two different stance types on it. And as this is basically just a tutorial type of stage, you're not going to be given all of the accessories over here. You'll find frag grenades, but you're not going to find the other types of grenades. Those will be placed later in the game. And do you see in the middle of my screen just a moment ago? It had a line that represented a poison status bar. Anytime that fills out by you getting damage from poison projectiles or the barbs that other enemies can cast at you and have materialized near you and possibly trap you right inside the barbs, which is even worse. It builds up this poison status effect that when it gets completely filled up, your vision is compromised and possibly your walking speed, but I haven't checked too much into that. So now we're going to come up here, pick this up. We have the ability to get frag grenades over here. And there are a couple of parts. Now, I've gone through Veteran recently, and I think that the final boss is not something that you need to overly worry about. But I do think that there are one or two escort missions. Oh, over here, feel free to use frag grenades to kill enemy clusters over here, because there's going to be more frag grenades in this vicinity over here. So feel free to maybe use even up to like 6 frag grenades. I know you only carry 3, but if you can get your hands on more, sometimes items and accessories are hiding in breakable objects, which is really nice. I like that. I don't appreciate when breakable objects have nothing in them. You know, what's the point of breaking them? And, you know, just for the look of it or the feel of it. But the escort missions, I would say, are the peaks of the game as far as difficulty. And the escort mission that will probably give you the most grief will be the gargoyle attack on antennas later in the game. I think it's on. It could be on the very next chapter, actually. I think it is. But it's a sequence in which gargoyles attack different antennas, and it's a timed mission, meaning that if you don't do it quickly enough and get those gargoyles off the antenna, you'll fail. You get a fail state. And it's not only that, you've got a big chaos fuckfest of other enemies on the ground. You've also got flying enemies that I believe are called Zoranthropes that buff the other enemies around you. And it's not just doing what you need to do to keep the antennas from getting destroyed. It's killing every enemy on the ground as well. So you've got to protect the antennas and not get killed in killing every enemy, because you can't advance till every enemy is killed. Now this over here, this isn't too bad over here, but in advance of that escort mission, I will give you plenty of opportunities to get a setup that will work for you. I'll give you a couple of choices. I have one outstanding, what I feel is an outstanding setup to go there with. And I won't tease it here, but just remember when you're on that part, you'll see what I have, and I'll talk about that setup long in advance of when we're doing that. So if it is in the next video, which I suspect it is, as we go through the video, I will give you plenty of time to acquire what you need to acquire if you want to follow in my exact footsteps to prepare for that section. And in a minute, you're going to notice that there's going to be a bunch of enemies coming up here. I wouldn't waste frag grenades throwing them down there. There's frag grenades up here. What you probably want to do is focus on getting any enemy clusters killed up here first, and then backtracking as much as you can, waiting for enemies to get near to these exploding canisters. You see there's a couple over here, one to my immediate right, one over to the left, because these canisters can destroy enemies in groups and do a fantastic amount of extra damage to a lot of good folk. Well, I don't think they're really good, but let's just say that they're not very nice and good folks. They're bad people. But can we even call them people? But just be careful when you're shooting these canisters that you're not too close to them, because you will take damage. There's also a pair of frag grenades, two pair of frag grenades actually over to the right. Anytime you see that plus icon over your head, it means you're regenerating health from an execution or a gun strike. Health, when I say health, I mean health slash health and or shields, let me say that, so I don't commit to something that I might not realize that I was talking about, because it's been a couple seconds and I'm completely immersed in what we're doing over here, and I'm trying to let you know that as you're doing this, just continually look out for those turquoise ring attacks that these enemies do, so that you can parry them and get some of your shields back. But when you see the reach icon, that's pretty much your cue to get over there. Once you get over there, though, and even before you even get over there, I think the screen is going to fade out, and you're going to be in a different location. And I'm not sure, but your HUD does get taken away over here. So I don't know what that's all about. The first enemy gives you the chance to parry, so parry him, get some of your shields back, but I'm not sure why your HUD is gone at this point. But you're going to have several groupings of these smaller enemies down here. You're going to have the warriors with the bone swords, And then once you have finished this, you're going to be in a it's a scripted fight with an enemy. I won't spoil it. I mean, you're going to see it on screen, but I believe it's called the Carnivex, that you're going to be fighting in chapter 3 or 4. So it's some foreshadowing of a boss that you're going to later fight. And like I say, it's a scripted fight. You cannot kill him. If it kills you, it doesn't matter. If you stay alive as much as you can, it doesn't matter. Like I said, it just times out and it's completely scripted. But it is foreshadowing to that later boss, which I don't necessarily think is difficult. It's just that some of these fights can just be chaotic messes and just look like utter shit shows with different lackeys and all kinds of things going down. And even though we're on the performance mode, it's called speed mode, the frame rate can still dive, and it's not very fun whatsoever. But we should have the Carnivex coming up over here, and we'll get into this guy at length on the actual boss fight with him. But he does do a projectile that he does it 3 times. But the basic thing on this guy is you evade at the last moment, go into gunstrike mode, and then that's it. But like I said, some of the things that you can do on him, did you see that right there? He does 3 of those. I'm not sure why he did only 2 of them there. But when we do get to that boss later, he shoots 3 sets of those weapons. Or those projectiles, excuse me. But that is the conclusion of the Prelude. It faded to black right there, folks. So yes, Prelude is done. We finished the Kodaku Prelude. And I will see you in the first official operation. There will be 6 operations. So until I see you again, please take care. And I hope that with these videos, Angel of Death difficulty will not be something that you struggle on inordinately. So until we see each other again in the first official operation, please take care.